Oh, see, Deb knows how to live life to the full. Every day. Don't you, bum?
I try.
And literally, when I go to sleep every night, Deb says to me, she goes, "Party's over, is it?" Oh. I go, "Babe, I've got to get some sleep." She goes, "Oh."
That's what I always said I loved about marriage, permanent sleepover, someone to play with.
For nearly 3 decades, Hugh Jackman built the Hollywood love story we all wanted to believe in. He and Deborra-Lee Furness, a love that defied an age gap, soaring fame, and the temptations that destroy so many others. He used every opportunity to praise her, calling her his rock, his foundation, as essential as breathing. Hollywood believed it. The fans believed it. So what happens when the curtain falls, and the woman who was his everything is left with a single word to describe their 27 years together? Betrayal. Join us as we pull back the curtain on the forever vows and uncover why Deborra-Lee now calls it a traumatic journey. To truly feel the weight of that word, we have to go back to the beginning. Back to 1995, when a celebrated Australian actress was about to meet a young man fresh out of drama school. Chapter 1, The Woman Before Hugh. By the time their paths crossed, Deborra-Lee Furness was already a force. She had won Best Actress at the Film Critics Circle of Australia Awards in 1988 for her lead role in Shame. She'd trained at the prestigious American Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York, worked on the American TV series Falcon Crest, and then returned to Australia to become a respected name in her home country's film industry. When she was cast as the lead in the 1995 TV series Corelli, Deborra-Lee was 39. She played a prison psychologist. Her co-star was a 26-year-old recent drama school graduate in his first professional role. His name was Hugh Jackman. Within weeks of filming, Hugh was smitten. He recounted in many interviews later that the crush was instant and intense. But Deborra-Lee was cautious. She was 13 years his senior. She had been in the industry long enough to know what people would say about a woman in her position falling for a much younger man. She tried to end it in the early months. In private conversations, she told Hugh the age gap was a real problem. She worried about the gossip, about her own established career, about the implications for them both. Hugh refused to accept it. He told her the years didn't matter. He told her he was sure about her. In a 2013 interview with Town & Country, Hugh admitted he'd made a rule for himself. He wouldn't propose to Deborra-Lee within the first 6 months. That rule lasted 4 months. He decided it was silly and proposed early. They were married on April 11, 1996, at St. John's Church in Toorak, Melbourne. She was 40. He was 27. In their wedding photos, she wore a chic, off-the-shoulder white jumpsuit instead of a traditional gown, a choice that reflected her independent spirit. The woman who saw the red flags from the beginning chose to stay anyway. She trusted Hugh, and she would continue to trust him for the next 27 years. Chapter 2. 27 years of picture perfect. Immediately after the wedding, they began trying for a family. The process was long and heartbreaking. They endured multiple rounds of failed IVF. Deborra-Lee suffered several miscarriages. While Hugh spoke of this with sorrow in interviews, Deborra-Lee rarely went into detail. She held that grief privately. Eventually, they chose to adopt. Their son, Oscar, joined the family in 2000. Their daughter, Ava, arrived in 2005. In the years that followed, Deborra-Lee became a fierce advocate for adoption reform in Australia, working directly with lawmakers and speaking out publicly about the system's flaws. This wasn't for his career or their public image. This was her fight. Meanwhile, Hugh became one of the biggest stars in the world. His role as Wolverine launched him into the stratosphere. He conquered Broadway, won a Tony Award, hosted the Oscars, and starred in The Greatest Showman. His career demanded constant movement: Sydney, Los Angeles, New York, London. Deborra-Lee followed. She still took on acting roles when time permitted, but most of her professional decisions were made around Hugh's schedule. There were roles she couldn't take because the family needed to be in a certain place. There were projects she had to pass on because filming conflicted with the kids' school schedules. Hugh was effusive with his love for her. he gave her her own hashtag on Instagram, #MyDebs. On every wedding anniversary, he would post long, heartfelt tributes with throwback photos, calling her the bedrock of his life. In 2021, on their 25th anniversary, he wrote that their love had only grown deeper, that being with her was as natural as breathing. A woman who hears those words for a quarter of a century builds her life around them. She makes decisions based on them. She believes the man saying them is telling the truth. As of early 2022, their marriage was still considered one of Hollywood's most enduring love stories. But in February of that year, Hugh began rehearsals for a new Broadway show. It was called The Music Man. His co-star was a renowned Broadway actress named Sutton Foster. Chapter 3. Broadway and What Happens in the Wings. Sutton Foster is one of Broadway's most respected performers. A two-time Tony Award winner, she built her career on pure talent. In 2022, she was married to screenwriter Ted Griffin, with whom she shared a young daughter. The Music Man ran from February 2022 to January 2023. For nearly a year, Hugh and Sutton performed together almost every night. According to sources later published by US Weekly, their relationship during this period became what those working on the show described as an open secret. Crew members reported observing a sustained physical closeness between them backstage. In interviews during the show's run, Sutton spoke warmly of a pre-show ritual she and Hugh had developed. They would take time each night before going on stage to talk and connect. In retrospect, those words carry a different weight. Sources close to Deborra-Lee later said she felt a shift during that time. Her assessment, shared by insiders with the press, was that an emotional affair had developed over the course of the show's run, regardless of whether it became physical while the marriage was still intact. In 2023, things carried on as if nothing was wrong. On April 11th, 2023, Hugh posted an anniversary tribute for their 27th year. He called her "My Debs," shared old photos, and wrote the familiar, loving words. On May 1st, 2023, Hugh and Deborra-Lee attended the Met Gala together. They walked the red carpet as they had for years. It was their last public appearance as a couple. On September 15th, 2023, they released a joint statement announcing their separation after nearly 3 decades. The language was carefully crafted. They called it a shift in our journey and said the decision was made to pursue our individual growth. It was the kind of PR speak designed to say as little as possible while sounding thoughtful and mutual. 4 months earlier, Hugh had his arm around his wife on the Met Gala carpet. The whiplash between action and announcement was becoming clear. Chapter 4. 2 Years of Silence. From September 2023 to May 2025, Deborra-Lee said almost nothing. She turned down interviews. She didn't post about the divorce on social media. She didn't appear on talk shows to share her pain. In May 2024, she attended a screening for Force of Nature, The Dry 2. When a reporter asked what she'd learned about herself in the past year, her only reply was that she learned she was strong and resilient. No further details. Meanwhile, Hugh and Sutton became more visible. In October 2024, Sutton Foster filed for divorce from Ted Griffin one day before her 10th wedding anniversary. In January 2025, Hugh and Sutton were photographed together in Los Angeles, their relationship now public and confirmed. And Deborra-Lee made her own moves. On May 21st, 2025, 2 days before filing for divorce, she paid $1.7 million to buy out the Manhattan penthouse she and Hugh had shared. She wasn't waiting for the assets to be divided. She acted first, securing the property in her name, and then she filed. That sequence wasn't random. It pointed to a legal and financial strategy that had been in motion for some time. The woman who had been silent for 2 years was not a woman sitting idle. On May 23, 2025, the divorce papers were filed. The marriage was finalized in early June 2025. The couple's joint assets were estimated at $387 million, accumulated over nearly 3 decades, including earnings from the X-Men franchise, Broadway roles, endorsement deals, and properties in Manhattan, the Hamptons, Australia, and the UK. There's a crucial detail about that money. In 1996, when they married, Deborra-Lee was the bigger star. She could have demanded a prenuptial agreement to protect her own assets. She didn't. She trusted Hugh completely. 27 years later, that trust became a factor in how their assets had to be legally divided. Along with the divorce filing, Deborra-Lee released an official statement to the Daily Mail. She used the word betrayal twice. She described the situation as a traumatic journey of betrayal and called it a deep wound. The statement was brief, but every word was deliberate. Compare the language of the two statements, September 2023 and May 2025. In 2023, they spoke of a wonderful, loving marriage. In 2025, she spoke of a traumatic journey. The woman who waited 2 years to speak chose her one word very, very carefully. Her reaction to hearing Hugh and Sutton were public was also shared by friends. She called it a kick in the teeth. Not a long, furious rant. Just a short, sharp sentence, delivered with the calm of someone who has already been through the worst and is now just describing the aftermath. Chapter 5. The 2026 Met Gala. In late 2025, news broke that Hugh had proposed to Sutton during a trip to Costa Rica in early 2026. According to New Idea, he got down on one knee on a whim while they were on the beach. Sutton was later seen wearing a diamond solitaire ring. The contrast with 1996 was stark. 30 years earlier, Hugh had made a rule to wait 6 months before proposing to Deborra-Lee. In 2026, he proposed on a whim on a beach. Same man, two entirely different proposals. In April 2026, a few weeks before the Met Gala, Hugh quietly listed the 5-bedroom New York mansion he and Deborra-Lee had bought together in 2009 for $21.1 million. The new asking price? $28.7 million. Including other financial moves during this period, he had liquidated roughly $40 million from their shared assets before making his public debut with Sutton at the Met. This was the final financial severing from his old life. On May 4, 2026, Hugh and Sutton walked the Met Gala red carpet. It was their first official public appearance at a major industry event. Sutton wore the diamond ring. Hugh wore a black tuxedo. They smiled, they posed, they answered brief questions from reporters. Two things happened that night the public would only learn about later. The first involved Nicole Kidman. She was one of the co-chairs of the 2026 Met Gala. Throughout the evening, she deliberately avoided Hugh. According to Rob Shooter's Naughty But Nice entertainment column, a source said, "Deb's betrayal quote was never forgotten by Hollywood." Many close to her feel Hugh treated her badly, and Nicole is one of her fiercest protectors. Hollywood was taking sides, and the ones on Team Deb weren't hiding it. The second involved a private agreement between Hugh and Deborra-Lee made when they separated in 2023. According to New Idea, they had agreed to take turns attending the Met Gala, alternating between even and odd years. The Met was Deborra-Lee's favorite event. By that agreement, 2026 was her year. A source said she had hoped Hugh would honor their deal and stay home. Instead, he went, and he brought Sutton. The source said Deborra-Lee was devastated to see them there together. The 2026 Met Gala wasn't just a fashion event. It was the night Hollywood watched the last promise between them break in public. Chapter 6. The Last Image. A few days after news of Hugh's engagement to Sutton spread internationally, paparazzi photographed Deborra-Lee walking on a New York street. She was with her daughter, Ava, now 20. In the photos, mother and daughter wore matching white fur coats and hats. They walked side by side, unhurried, not hiding from the cameras. The Australian press described Deborra-Lee as downcast. But she wasn't hiding. She was out. She was with her daughter. Both of Hugh and Deborra-Lee's children, Oscar, 25, and Ava, 20, have remained silent on social media about their father's relationship with Sutton. No congratulatory posts, no shared photos, no public support. They have chosen their side in this story, and they've done it quietly. It has also been reported that Deborra-Lee is in talks with publishers about a tell-all memoir. According to multiple sources, there is serious interest. There are also reports she kept detailed personal notes throughout the separation described as a divorce diary. Hugh is said to be aware of the potential book and had hoped she would decide against publishing it. Sources close to him and Sutton described the project with words of concern, not indifference. A woman who kept the details of her marriage private for 27 years. A woman who said nothing publicly for nearly 2 years after separating. A woman who chose every word with extreme care when she finally spoke. That is not a woman who would write a memoir carelessly. She already knows exactly what she wants to say. Chapter 7. The Aftermath. The story of Hugh Jackman and Deborra-Lee Furness began in 1995 on an Australian film set, where a 39-year-old established actress met a 26-year-old kid fresh out of drama school. She was the one with doubts, the one who saw the risks, the one who tried to walk away. He was the one who promised her the world, who convinced her that love could conquer all, even a 13-year age gap and the harsh glare of the public eye. 27 years later, the person who walked away wasn't the one who had once been so afraid to stay. In that span of nearly 3 decades, Deborra-Lee wasn't just a wife. She was the silent architect of his ascent. While he built a global career, she built a family. Her life became the scaffolding that supported his. We can list the sacrifices, the grueling rounds of IVF, the quiet grief of miscarriages, the emotional journey of 2 adoptions, the years spent lobbying for adoption reform, the film roles she passed on so he could take his. But these weren't just items on a list. They were the foundational choices of her entire adult life. She wasn't just standing by him. She was the ground he stood on. And what did she get in return? She got to be the subject of 1,000 loving interviews, the star of a hashtag #MyDebs, and the recipient of 27 years of public declarations that, in hindsight, feel like a performance. The anniversary post from April 2023, written just 5 months before their separation announcement, wasn't merely a sweet gesture anymore. It became a public lie. That is the true kick in the teeth. The realization that the perfect marriage was being sold to the world long after its private expiration date. The joint statement they released later was the final layer of that performance, a carefully worded script designed to imply mutual consent for an ending that was anything but. Now, the stage has been reset. Hugh is moving forward, meticulously constructing a new public narrative. He has the new fiancé, the new red carpet partner, the new, spontaneous beach proposal story. He is building his next chapter in the full, unapologetic light of day. Meanwhile, Deborra-Lee has retreated from the spotlight, but not into passivity. She has her daughter's hand to hold on a New York street, the deed to her home secured, and a story that is finally, unequivocally, hers to tell. The woman who spent decades protecting his image is now the sole keeper of the truth behind it. That rumored memoir, The Divorce Diary, is more than just a book. It's a potential reckoning. For a man whose entire brand was built on being the perfect husband, the most devoted family man in Hollywood, his ex-wife's unedited perspective is the one thing he cannot control. The story isn't about revealing secrets. It's about reclaiming a narrative. It's about a woman who was known to the world as Hugh Jackman's wife, finally reintroducing herself as Deborra-Lee Furness. So, we ask you again, if she writes it all, if she details the emotional cost of being the rock for a man who eventually chose to build his house elsewhere, is it the ultimate act of betrayal? Or is it the final, necessary act of a woman taking back her own name, her own story, and her own truth from the wreckage of a Hollywood fairy tale? Is telling your story an act of revenge, or is it an act of survival? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. If you've ever had to rewrite your own story after the one you believed in fell apart, we want to hear from you. And make sure to follow, because the real stories are never the ones told on the red carpet.